I'm not going to call myself a freak.
My apologies. No, your audio was fine. I'm an idiot.
You've just turned it on, and everyone's like going fuck with their headphones.
That was a test.
Turning up.
You know, if you hadn't told me to mute the iPad, we would have known that.
All right, sorry, apologise for that.
I was looking over before. I was like, oh, the levels aren't up this month. So well.
One of the things, it's got a default setting, and every time, I don't know why, it just resets itself back to default when it shouldn't be. But anyway, there's just technicalities. Like a microphone being on when it shouldn't be.
When did that happen?
I don't know. I've heard of these things.
Never happened anytime it was important.
Why would you show me your house? If you look back through our actual page, you'll actually see photos of the setup and stuff like that. It's a bit difficult to... I assume you want to sort of see the setup that we've got going.
I could just take some photos.
You can take some photos
and then
and
hold
post
them
them
up
up.
to the camera.
No, just actually
So
post
it'd be
them.
like
Just
really
actually post them.
blurry
on
and
there.
distorted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like Vaseline on the lens.
Jeez. Anyway, let's start again. Welcome to the Salted Dragon Tavern. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and come listen to us talk about LARP. I would like to introduce the people who have come tonight. We will have a break at half time, and then 2 of the people will leave, and they'll be replaced by 2 others. We'll leave everyone guessing for a bit of fun.
You shouldn't have said that. You should have just let it happen.
I should just let it happen. It's like, who are the people? Introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, for the second time tonight, I'm Nathan. I've been LARPing for going on 9 years now, mostly at Swordcraft and a few other smaller Melbourne events.
Hey, I'm John. I've been LARPing for about 7 years, both at Swordcraft and What's Up Warsong. Been not Warsong for a bit up in Queensland, and Black Powder, ATF, and a lot of other things. So, hey.
Hello, I am Heather. I've been LARPing for almost exactly 5 years. I think maybe 5 years come this Friday. And I post a lot of pictures of myself on social media.
That's what most of us do.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm Jack Package.
Too easy. Alright, as I said, we are both a Dungeons & Dragons stream, role-playing stream, LARP stream, whatever you want to call it. We have a whole heap of different things that we'd like to do. This is one of them, which we do at the very first of every month at this particular stage. I was trying to do it weekly, but it was getting too much. We also have a Dungeons & Dragons stream that we do run every Sunday night starting at 6 o'clock for those who are just interested in a bit of shenanigans and role-playing and all that type of jazz. We do play that D&D game in the old Althean world of Swordcraft. So we actually still utilise a lot of the a lot of the old stuff that's coming along. So I can almost guarantee that the next stoppage will be, the lands of the Seconze and the lands of the Imperials. I'm going to love doing the Italian accents when they go through that area. It's going to be hilarious.
It's infectious.
Yes, it is infectious. As well, we've also, we've got bit cheers that you can do here. We've also got subscriptions you can do here. And if you do any of these particular things, you are essentially helping us out run this particular channel. Little bits of money here and there help us sort of just buy more things and get these things going. This is not a cheap operation, and if you saw the actual room and the amount of microphones I got going and this big 12 channel mixer that I've got going over here and everything else, you can understand why it costs a bit of money.
I'm impressed. I've actually only hit the setup twice tonight so far.
Hit you twice, so, that's pretty good.
Yeah, new PB.
Alright, so I'm going to cut this short for my little intro, and then we're going to go into some of the questions. So some of the questions that were asked last month I kind of purposely kept out, and we're going to catch up to a couple of them this particular month. So the very first one we're going to go through, which is a design question, but it's a very important question that I'm really happy to bring up now because it does relate to Blood and Gold coming up as well as Exodus coming up, but probably more long term. But it also relates to potentially other people who are considering creating their own LARPs in the long term future or anything like that. And this is essentially the death mechanic. The short answer that I would give for this is it depends on the game you have created and what it's for. So, who wants to start with their thoughts on this? Based on whatever experience or whatever LARP you're either running or being part of, it doesn't really matter.
No, that's out.
Oh, you're out?
Yeah. You guys don't do that?
No.
Like you hit your nose, last person to hit their nose is the one that's it? Okay.
Not the things that I want to talk about.
Oh, no, it's that.
No, that's a different thing.
Yeah, I know.
That's
It's essentially the same thing,
yeah.
though.
Anyway.
I was worried we were actually going to have a live game of Mr. President.
Yeah.
That is going to destroy your setup.
That will destroy my setup, yes.
I can jump in.
Go for it.
Okay, so this is specialized to Black Powder and Bloodlines. Their death mechanic is, I feel, really cool in an RP sense. So if you get shot, in the chest, you're wounded, and you can crawl away to safety, and your character doesn't have to die. To actually die in the game, someone has to, when you've been wounded or incapacitated or whatever, come up to you, look you in the eyes, and say, "I want you to die," and then murder you. And I feel that's a really cool death mechanic.
I have heard of that mechanic. I haven't actually been to Black Powder and Bloodlines to know how it operates.
I think it works there because people get very attached to their characters there, and they've got like a 5-year arc, and sorry man, but
what you have there is relevance because this is a good example of when death, the mechanic of death in this particular case suits the actual lot that
so
it's for.
it is a permadeath, and
Yes.
your character is gone, and that means all of your hours of kit and getting into character, and the research that you've done on the world lore, that's essentially like gone. But I don't think the story that you made is gone, because that that remains, and to someone else who's actually committed that act is very.
But what's
very
important about Blood and Gold, and there's a few other LARPs out there that do this, is that the fact that it's not a battle game.
Yeah, that's
In every sense of the word, it's not a battle game. I mean, battles happen, fights happen, combats happen, and people can die en masse because of the combats that exist. However, everyone in the game's on the same playing field, knowing that if something just goes wrong, even if the slightest, they will probably die as well.
Sorry, do you mean Black Powder and Bloodlines?
Yeah, Black Panther.
You said Blood and Gold.
Did I? So yes, that's a good example of where death mechanic is important to the actual game. It actually creates part of that game.
Yeah.
It creates some of that aspect. And like After the Fall, as an example, was a different kettle of fish. Especially when the very first time that they ran After the Fall for their test game, that they call it, where on average it was probably about 3 deaths per person for the whole weekend, and it was still permadeath. So when you died, you had to come back as something completely different, even if you just rearranged your kit and just came back with a new name and a few random bits and pieces. That was a lot different in the sense that you almost came into that game expecting to die 2 or 3 times, but it changed when they went live. Considerably changed, because even though there was still a fair amount of death in After the Fall to represent the post-apocalyptic nature of things, far less than there was when we did the test match.
It's interesting because as an NPC at the second game, I died all the time.
But you were an NPC. I died as a. I think I was the preacher for 4.5 minutes before I died. We timed it.
Yeah.
So. Because a lot of people, especially when it comes to the battle games, so both Warcraft and it probably will happen Exodus as well, is the concept of it doesn't matter because there's no permadeath. So that's one of the things where I see a lot. I don't have seen a lot recently, but I've seen it a lot in the past where people have just gone, if this happened, then things will be so much better because of permadeath. But when I've been to both Drakenfest and Conquest of Myth of DR, I saw 2 sides of that particular coin. We have talked about this before. In Drakenfest, if you die, you come back. You do.
You can die. You can perma die. I nearly perma died.
You can, but
No, you can, and if that mechanic eventuates, you are expected to die. I got a reprieve from serving death. I had to run around and get fucking sweaty in the dark ass tent for hours on end. I deliberately avoid talking about.
Did you go into the right tent?
Yeah. All I know is I got to keep my character.
Serve death, service death, the tour.
So it's
I deliberately,
Yeah.
and I kind of hold Tim to this. I deliberately avoid talking about Limbus at Drakenfest because it is fucking amazing. If you ever go, get dead, go to Limbus.
Spoilers.
Because
Get dead.
for the most part, you won't actually die. They just sort of, it's a challenge to pass through, and they've got this alternate death mechanic now. It's like Watchers of Twilight or something is what they're called. It's like going to see Hob Death at SC. So yeah, quite similar to that. That's their new one. But Limbus is gotta go see it because it's an actual fright, especially if you get killed in a night siege or night battle and you go there in the dark and they're still running. Pants will be brown, even if you've been before.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Is death at Drakenfest as common as it would be at Swordcraft?
Oh yeah, yeah. People die all the
All
time,
the time,
and but
okay.
they just sort of let you flow through in the same sort of way that you do with death at Swordcraft. Having said that, you can die, and I got into the situation where it eventuated that I should be dead, but got a reprieve because I bargained to participate in helping them run Limbus. However that happens, mystery. And because I did that for a couple of hours, which also like it was fucking amazing. You know, it was a good experience. I got to keep a character, which was good.
In essence, yes, I know.
But,
I know there's
but
definitely.
yeah, if they hadn't have given me that, I'd have to let my character die. So I had to come back and like in character explain to people that I wasn't dead. And they're like, no, but you died in the Limbus, right? And I'm like, yes, but... And I'm trying to like explain it without the whole... Because they've got a similar thing where like you don't remember being in Limbus and there's like a sort of time-lapse kind of thing. So it was kind of like, yes, I died, but I'm here. And because I was gone so long, they just assumed that I had died and gone to, you know, hypothetically roll up a new one. New character. Roll up a new character.
But... For me, in essence, even if a permanent death mechanic does exist at Drakenfest, inherently it doesn't.
No, it inherently does. It's just not frequent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's designed in such a way that if you do die in the middle of a combat, you can pretty much come back. But there is a permanent death mechanic in there.
Yeah. If you're like pro tip, if you're gonna die in a battle at Drakenfest, die early because by the end of a battle, you'd be waiting at the end of a mile line. It's not even a joke.
However, it's important because that gives us an example of how where there is a mechanic in the system where you can essentially just come back all the time after you've done a fight. However, that there is a permanent death mechanic involved in the game.
Yeah, it's that there's a risk that you won't come back.
Yes,
that's the idea.
Yeah, which I think is really important because it hasn't happened at Swordcraft. It's always been you always come back. There's no such thing as permanent death.
Not
true. Yeah.
So at some of Swordcraft's very early events, they did, and this is when they were still using a Drakenfest-esque rules system. Their early iterations of Limbus did include ways that you could be permakilled, including failing to get through Limbus successfully. But they also included that anybody who was killed inside of the ritual circle in town was kaput. That was the end of the character. You have died. Your soul has been ripped away by...
Yeah.
Yes. Some of those drunkenly.
The concept of someone choosing to permadeath their character based on the story is a thing that they've done themselves to sort of create story, which is cool, but it's not part of the game per se. You don't have to. And that's just the evolution of your role-playing ability to be able to do that because you know that it will have a massive impact to the people around you in the game that you're playing.
I think one thing that helps people come to that sort of evolution, though, is like Black Powder games that raise the stakes. Because if you don't have stakes, you're not going to, try and avoid death. No, that's right.
I don't know.
So I'm just wondering if we can get confirmed. So John, have you in fact beat death in an erotic arm wrestle? And are you now...
Okay, so the reason why I'm one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this particular question up because I think it's had a massive importance to both Blood and Gold coming up because I've been having discussions with the quest organisers about some of the rules that have been potentially put in place or not put in place, and one of them was the death mechanic itself. So yeah, currently it does come up a lot, and there's been massive discussions about it and stuff like that. And I've been trying to push to go down the point of getting the permadeath put into the system. And there were some people who were quite behind it as well. However, because of it just not being decided is now unfortunately too late, and it will just be the same as it was before. With some sort of role playing attached to it when you die type thing, but not all that much different than before. Which to me, I think inherently is going to cause a bigger problem because it is the mentality of what Blood and Gold's trying to be. Does that make sense? So in Blood and Gold, the concept is more Warhammerish, which is a bit slightly more darker.
It's a brutal setting.
People
a brutal
die
setting.
yeah. all the time.
Exactly, yeah. So, and I also know that a lot of warbands and individuals are turning to the dark path a lot more than probably will existed in the previous incarnation, which basically means that these dark people will be able to get away with whatever they want, essentially, and the only repercussion that they can possibly have against them is everyone else basically camp stomping them, because there's no other way to deal with them.
And obviously, like, you're somebody who's been on that experience of receiving the camp stomping. I'm sure a lot of people have. That's something that the issue being is going to ruin the event for those people, make them less likely to come back in future. But at the same time, you know, you're always going to get it at these events where there is no permadeath, where there is no repercussions really, other than, oh, I've forgotten half an hour. Those lovely people that just walk around with a dagger 24/7 and put it in as many things as they can. Murder hobo.
You said it on purpose.
I did say it on purpose. And, you know, obviously as well from a leader's perspective, because everybody around the table has obviously been relatively senior in warbands, and the way that Blood and Gold works is it does, in some regards, discourage intelligent diplomatic decisions, because it doesn't matter what decisions you make, the repercussions that fall back aren't going to kill your character. You can lead your people into, as I often do, completely unwinnable scenarios, because it doesn't matter. There aren't those repercussions to those decisions.
Okay, I'm just going to mod the chat a little bit. Alright, yeah, so that's kind of like what my discussion's all about, stuff like that. And it's because we've got John here, who has now become part of the Swordcraft committee, or are you considered an organizer?
Yeah, I'm on the executive now.
You're on the executive now. I think you guys
so is Heather.
Are you as well?
Yeah, it's been for a while.
Yeah.
It has been up to about a year. Yeah.
Okay. No one tells me nothing. Because, well, even on that particular sense, you guys have come into this in the last, month, if that?
Yeah.
And it's too late to influence the quest itself, because everything that's been decided so far really can't change this late out of the game.
Well, I don't know. I think when we had a meeting for this, someone said it wouldn't be Swordcraft if we didn't change the rules a week before quest. But,
I have a request. Don't be Swordcraft.
We are not changing the rules. Yeah, that's right. In future, it's something that we can look at doing, but for this quest, it's pretty much set.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's good to know, but with the experience I had, it would have been one of those things that you probably... Foresight is it was a wonderful thing. You know, it would have been good to be able to actually have this discussion, this rule in place when you're first going into this new world and so on and so forth. But shit happens. But so what else am I thinking of? Another reason why I'm bringing this particular question to the forefront is because at some point in time you may go down a larger event, potentially either weekend and then expand beyond that, and then you have to consider these particular aspects as well when it comes to Exodus and what you're
I
doing.
mean, we are thinking about them because we have said we've got the whole adventuring system that we want to set up that will be tied into the campaign system that groups will play. Death isn't necessarily a mechanic that we want to make an inherent part of it, but it isn't something that we have ruled out for every scenario that would be encountered either.
Alright, you guys got any other opinions on the death mechanics when it comes to a LARP, or are you just not that experienced enough like I am?
Actually, I was going to ask you, what's Mythidea's death mechanic?
Okay, Mythidia has...
Because I had an unconventional death at Mythidia.
How so?
Will you explain the death mechanic, and I'll tell you...
Okay, as far as I know, the death mechanic is you die.
Ah, that's boring.
They bought it the year... Apparently, what I was told when I was there, it's hard when I speak English and they all speak German.
Du kannst sprechen Sie deutsche Sprache?
I was told that the year that I came in is when they actually introduced permadeath. Or at least permadeath in the sense that if you die, you die.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know what the mechanic was before we came.
Right.
But yeah, I know that year was basically permadeath. And one of the things I noticed going from Drakenfest, where you inherently can come back, the combat was massively different to Conquest of Mythidia, where if you died, you died. And what it created is that in Drakenfest, people would actually have fun with it and do challenges and go out of their way to go in for that combat because they know if they died, it didn't matter too much. It's
There's less of a risk.
less of a risk.
I think the other thing that helps that though with Mythidia is that their fights are coordinated.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Spielleitung, the referees, I guess. No, not referees. That's not right, is it? It's like game runner, I suppose. Is,
I heard
But-
STs or something like that.
Yeah, ST is Spielleitung. Anyway, they get a cherry picker and they like watch it's mostly the battles that they sort of coordinate, but they get up and they sort of tell the NPC units to like move here, push this unit back, and that to actually make it feel like a struggle and stuff. But the NPCs aren't there with the remit of like destroying and cutting people down.
I mean, obviously that's another large factor there as well, is the combats are largely against the environment rather than other players.
Yeah, at Mythidia it's PvE, and that's what I was going to say. So I got cut down, and they came up and they grabbed me, and they took me behind the line, and they dragged me up to like some surgeon or something, who like did all this like cutting and sewing and shit, and there's all these zombies like grabbing at me and shit. It was actually kind of terrified too, because like I couldn't really see above me. I had this woman leaning over me, and then just hands and stuff.
Did you wander
Come
into
in.
the wrong tent again?
Yeah. And then they dragged me off and they did some like ritual to like raise me from the dead. So I basically became part of the undead flesh. And when I went to talk to them about it after the fact, they were like, they're like, oh, that means your character's dead though. What am I missing here? What's going on?
I think some of
I
those
think one of my
high school
students is watching.
Is it?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Jake. Hi, Jake. Go away. Do your homework, please. Ugh. Well, I think it's exactly like you said. The death mechanic needs to suit the type of game and also what the players expect. So going into a game like ATF or Black Powder, they're all very individual characters, and you go in knowing that there's a very high chance that you could die. So even though many people spend hours and hours making their kits, they make it knowing that there's a very high chance they could die. Whereas something like Swordcraft, which is a very warband central kind of gameplay, you just couldn't have your character dying all the time. Well, in my like
I agree.
perspective, you just couldn't have characters
I mean,
dying all the
like
time.
10
It's just
times a Friday.
and there's just, I mean, considering the amount of effort and time that like I know so many people are putting in with the new relaunch into new kits and characters, it's just, if my character died this quest, I'd be gutted. I would just be gutted. So I think it's, like you said, very dependent on the game.
But for me, like for Swordcraft itself, or Blood and Gold in this particular case, the permadeath that I put forward as an idea was the concept of the permadeath is only in relation to extreme circumstances more than just the regular mill of the way things are. So it's a case of a judicial version of it. So if you had to get pushed through some courts or something like that, then they actually have a means to permadeath your character because it became that extreme and you got put through the judicial system that was all done in character, stuff like that, which meant you were the actual bad guy because that's what you chose. Then you chose the path of, well, I'm going down this path where I'm most likely going to get permadeath because I went down that particular path. And the other one, which was of course doing assassination, which also created permadeath. Two extreme situations that required a lot of rules set behind them, a lot of milestones to be met before they could be done, but they existed in such a way that they could still create that permadeath within the rule system itself. That was what I put forward, and to me, I think it's probably just an organisation thing, how I'm just not getting all done in time. But to me, if that was set down in stone from the very start as Blood and Gold, then everyone's like, okay, cool. They'll sort of get an understanding of it. But at the same time, and someone else put this to me, is that some people might utilize that as a means to grief other people. And my counter argument to that was that yes, I agree, people will use it to grief because they don't know any better. And I think that because people might use it to grief is not a reason to not put it in, because at some point in time, once they've gotten past that phase of being that person and it becomes part of the fabric of the game itself, it will become far less of an issue, and then people will take it in stride as part of the game. And that's basically my argument for why I think such a thing could exist in the game. However, it doesn't exist for Blood and Gold, at least for this particular next event.
Yeah.
I'm really open to something like that, though. Like,
Yeah.
I find that having that permadeath looming behind you or hiding in the shadows,
it's
makes you
just a tiny bit,
Exactly.
just enough to know it's there, makes you think twice about, should I just shank this random dude in the street because I'm poor? You know, if I shank enough random dudes in the middle of the street because I'm poor and I don't have any particular mentality how to actually make money within the game, you're most likely going to get this judicial death and then get sent to Thingos and make a new character, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think the other thing that affects it is that the majority of the Swordcraft player base is very young roleplay community. I mean, even I feel like I'm very young when it comes to roleplay, when there are people who've been doing it for 20, 30 years, like majority of their life. And I think a lot of the people that are new players to Swordcraft come from things like maybe tabletop, maybe cosplay, maybe they just heard it through a friend, and Swordcraft is sort of that gateway LARP. So a lot of people aren't used to the roleplay, and so they may not be prepared for their character to die, or they just think shanking on the road is roleplay. I think it's a big learning curve for people as well, so it has to match that.
But at the same time, if we don't put rules in place to sort of curb this behaviour, all we're doing is encouraging them to keep doing it.
Yeah, also a valid point.
Yeah.
Also a valid point.
I mean, there definitely have been some people that have continued doing that kind of thing for years of LARP, of quest events and of the weekend and the week events now. And they continue doing it simply because, as Tim said, there's no reason for them to not continue doing it. You know, even if half the player base has cottoned on to the fact that they don't even need to hand over a copper when they get shanked, that's not going to stop them because they're still getting 50% of what they used to.
Anyway, I think the answer to those particular questions was more about just an understanding of what you could possibly do when it comes to a death mechanic, and something for Exodus to think about, something for Blood and Gold to think about in the future. And I hope it's something that can be brought to the forefront to sort of help make the game a bit more interesting. I think it'll make it more interesting too.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. Yeah.
Alright, so the next question I want to ask, and I would have loved to have asked both you and Madeline when she comes, but you guys are gonna leave, and then they're gonna come in.
You
later.
just gave it away.
Shut up.
Spoilers.
There's someone else coming. Yeah, maybe. And I am doing this on purpose because I'm not trying to ask this particular question to cause angst or problems or anything like that within the community itself. What I'm trying to do is make it better by trying to pull out the problem and discussing that problem, no matter how delicate that problem is. Because I think that if we don't, that problem will just stay there forever, and people will just tippy tap around it and so on and so forth.
Ready for a really controversial question?
Let's do this.
So you have come on board. Two other people have also come on board as become part of Thingo. From my perspective, it's good. It's absolutely good that you guys have done this. There's two parts to it for me, but this is just for me, and these guys might have a different opinion. Others who are also watching might have different opinions. There seems a little bit of nepotism involved. It seems like the three people who came on board were a specific group of people.
Okay.
Perception is important.
Yep.
Whether it's true or not is the thing that we could probably go through after this. The other one is that even though you guys have come on board to take up a larger role of organising this stuff, to me, I'm not 100% convinced it's going to help in the long run, because the problems will still exist, and all they're doing is putting middlemen in between it all.
Okay. Well, if I can address the nepotism
Yes.
part of
address
it.
the
So
part.
each of the new executives has earned their position. Jess Lloyd, who's become the outgoing communications executive, she's university trained in communication. She's continuing her education with public relations, and she fits the role very, very well. She's earned her spot. She's been a member of the Warband Leaders Committee, which, you know, she's had some dealings with the board before, so in a way they do know her, but they also know that she can act very professionally. She brings a new perspective to the executive, which is something that, you know, gives them access to a community that they didn't really have access to before. And yeah, she's definitely earned her position. Madeline Colvin is also very professional. She's, I think, a very big name in like the Victorian LARP scene. She's run, or at least helped run, several LARPs previously. She's part of Arm Street, which is, you know, very reputable. And
she also has tertiary education in things like management and PR and things like that.
And she's worked,
and she's
I
worked.
don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
That's why
she's
I invited
been
her
like
along for
the
this.
spokesperson and front woman for many
Yeah.
like business talks and things like that.
That's right.
She's awesome.
and a big proponent of like women taking a step forward in business,
Yes.
which is very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Myself, I just wanted up and was like, "Hey guys, can I just have a job?"
I think you're just a pretty boy.
No, yeah, that's not.
I mean, I think so.
So when things were going pretty badly for Swordcraft, I wrote an independent submission, which was basically an action plan. It was about 18-page PDF, identifying issues, talking about why they were affecting the community badly, how we could fix them, and then an implementation strategy on how to do that. Because of that, the executive team started inviting me to things, and then I don't know. I also have a background. I've just finished a law degree at Bond Uni in Queensland, and so the rules officer position kind of made sense. Yeah, I'm very passionate about fixing the game,
Or at least trying.
Or at
to
least
help
trying.
in some way.
Yeah.
And if in the end it doesn't work, well, at least we tried.
we gave it a crack. So I don't think that anyone's just like walked in and been like, "Hey mate, bring us on. That'll solve everything." I know that there was a shortlist put together. I know some of the names that were on that shortlist. And I mean, in the end, it was the executive's decision who got put on. So
Which leads into the next part of that particular question.
Okay.
Is it was the executive's decision to put you in place. Currently, Swordcraft and Quest are sort of run independent of each other on an organisation level.
Yeah.
And I think part of that's right now is because you guys have come into the picture very
Yeah.
late. So I assume going forward that you will have a much larger hand in running quests alongside Swordcraft itself.
that's true.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, long-term benefit for the game. I hope that people can see that since we've come on, we have been trying to make changes. You've seen, you know, Jess is working very hard to break down that communication barrier that existed between the executive and the player base. We've had the town hall meeting. We're looking at doing more focus groups. Yeah, really trying to reconnect with the players and to make a better game.
Because one of the other problems that I'm also seeing, and I think it's just because of just the way the cookies crumbled realistically more than anything else, is that I think the person who's been running Quest, at least for the last 2 or 3 games, lives in a completely different state. And it makes it extremely difficult to sort of get things done at a more personal level. Because, you know, I come from a programmer's background, we have meetings galore. They're annoying as all fuck, but you need them at the same time. You need to actually have a bit of business professionalism behind it when it comes to organising things. So at least a lot more people are on the same page. So for me, for you guys, you know, that's what I want to hear, at least on that perspective. Especially, I'm one of the people who are helping run parts of Quest, and I run some good stuff in Quest, but it's very difficult to sort of know what's going on half the time. And then at the last moment, I'm getting stuff within 2 weeks and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it's a case of, glad you guys are on board. And I hope you guys really do take over the reins of running Quest, because we're running it more locally and you guys live locally, and it makes it easier for you guys to put the meetings together and actually get everyone talking together again.
That's what we want to do.
That's what you want to do.
That's what we want to do, yeah.
That's what we want to hear. At least that's what I want to hear. So yeah, it's all good. So I did put you on the spot for a little bit there, but as I said, I'm trying to get this to become better.
Yeah, I need to call Jess like PR is this cool.
Did I do that right, Mike?
I've said all these things on stream. This is our official stance now.
We'll just edit it in post, right? Live? What do you mean live?
Alright, I don't even know if that was a question. It was more of a discussion between us two.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah.
Package, because you saw that. I saw that look on your face when I asked that question.
I'll be completely honest. I felt like that was pistol whipping a blind kid a bit.
Of course.
Yeah, that was a bit on the spot, but
It was on the spot. I did it on purpose.
It's okay.
Yeah. The same question was actually brought up at the town hall meeting that Swordcraft held last Monday. The video of which will be up tomorrow. So you'll be able to get the same, well, a very similar answer from both. Anyways, I mean, you were there. You were there? Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So-
I didn't, because I wasn't even at the town hall meeting. I've got other things I do on Monday, so I can't come to them. But
Yeah.
it's good that the town hall meetings are happening. Actually,
Yeah. It's just another one of those. We're really trying to break down like that
yeah.
separation. Yeah.
I mean, I was going to wait until Madeline got here and ask her. But I mean, is there any upcoming like town hall meetings that
Yes.
can maybe be spooked to the community that are watching it all?
Absolutely. I think I will let Madeline handle that one because she knows where the venue is, or when the venue is. We were going to hold one this week, but we couldn't get the same Monday.
Yeah.
But we are running the
They're essentially focus groups.
focus groups. Yeah.
Looking at minorities or majorities really within the Swordcraft community and trying to just open that avenue of communication.
Yeah.
So
Rebuilding trust, especially in demographics that have been hurt by the last couple of weeks and months, and showing them that the game does care about them, and we are reaching out and listening to them. So
It's good. It's good to know. It's good to hear, actually.
but Maddie can definitely speak to that.
Yeah.
She's all over it.
She'll know a bit better about the actual location and dates and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Questions. There was another question, but I wanted to leave that for Madeline because it was actually her question. So, and no one's asked questions actually in the chat at all.
it's been blowing up. You just keep deleting the messages.
Yeah, that's it.
I think there's a valid reason for some of them.
Yes. Someone's asking how the town hall thing went.
Pretty sure there was a porn link earlier.
There was a porn link earlier, yes.
Please don't let it have been from my student. No.
Asking how the town hall thing went. Wait till tomorrow, look at the video, and you will know how the town hall thing went.
Video's coming up.
Jess,
That's
let's have a
perfect
talk. Which Jess?
I presume Lloyd.
Just Lloyd.
I tried to before, actually, when we had...
She was in the group chat follow.
She was in the group chat, just that she couldn't come, so yeah.
Yeah. I invited her in my place when I was ill last month, and again she was busy.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
very busy.
I mean, we all have lives. I mean.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
I'm sorry.
I will admit, I probably, since that particular time that I did get her to come along and she couldn't come along, it is actually difficult to try and get people to come along, and just sort of, I try and aim towards people who I can somewhat rely on to
what are you looking at me for?
15 minutes before the stream starts.
I'm regular, if not punctual, like all brand.
But yeah, actually,
Not when you want it, but always there.
Oh.
Before and after.
It's like the second choice of cereal.
Alright, before we go into people's schools, audience, please ask some questions.
Yeah, there is going to be a bit of delay. We live in Australia, so we have probably the worst internet in the world. So yeah, I think it's already cut out once in this particular chat. So like very briefly, but yeah, it's like suddenly the screen just like disappears and goes 200 error, or 2000 error, or some bullshit. But kicks over at me mostly.
I think Twitch as well has an inbuilt delay.
It does. Twitch does have an inbuilt delay. Yes. and it's to sometimes capture things that have been said that shouldn't be there, or I have no idea what's going on sometimes. Yes, there is an inherent delay between a text chat and what we actually say. Yeah, okay, alright. Questions. Do I have any particular questions that I need to go on with? Unless someone's actually got any views on what I've said so far. Alright, well then, we have Blood and Gold coming up in a couple of weeks. We have Exodus starting on Friday. I have with me two sides of this particular coin that is very sure is a huge topic of discussion amongst those who are not part of these groups in their own little backyards and all that type of jazz. First and foremost, good luck to both.
Are we throwing them in an arena? Or
Yeah.
making them
That's pretty much it. Where's my love
Yeah,
weapons?
I don't know. I think saying it's two sides of a coin is not the correct way to say it. I don't. It makes
by
it
all
sound like
means.
a competition. I don't.
Yeah.
I personally don't feel like it's a competition
Cool.
at all.
Bring it out. Bring out reasons why. 'Cause
Um.
what I said then is a perspective of a lot of people, so
Sure.
consider that. So why do you think it's not?
I think. Well, look, from my perspective, I think Package saw some issues with Swordcraft, and he wanted to find ways to make a LARP that he enjoyed and his friends enjoyed and other people could enjoy as well. There were definitely aspects of Swordcraft that some people don't enjoy, some that we're trying to fix, but it wasn't quick enough, or it wasn't exactly what you thought, or like you said, progress can be very slow. And I am excited, really excited to see how Exodus comes out. I actually genuinely want to see how it goes, and if we can learn from you and you can learn from us. You and us is the wrong way to put it as well, but I just like LARP, man. Like, I'm just excited.
I agree with that.
Another
I do
local
too.
LARP is like...
It
Yeah.
just makes it difficult because they're both essentially, for the purposes of the weekly games anyway, they're going to be on the same night, which basically means we're going to potentially see a split right down the middle of players to one and to another. For both Nathan and I, probably, it was a lot more fun when there was less people on the field. But there is potential. Exodus could potentially get more people coming back who have left Soulcraft because of some of the problems that have occurred in the past. And unfortunately, bridges do get burnt, and it's very difficult for people to want to come back to a product which they've just been burnt to from too much. So in that particular reason, Exodus may bring a small group of people, maybe a decent chunk of people who have stopped LARPing and come back into the scene again in a different LARP, which I think would be absolutely fantastic, because then it does increase the LARP amount of people who come actually do LARP within Australia and stuff like that.
I agree. I definitely agree.
I think as well that one thing to consider there is, just like you said, that's hopefully going to bring back people into the community that aren't interested in giving Swordcraft another chance. And in some regards, as Heather was pointing out, that's just going to strengthen the Victorian LARP community. You know, neither game might ever wind up as big as Swordcraft is right now, especially if the community is, you know, as you put it, split straight down the middle. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the Victorian LARP community as a whole is going to be weakened by there being, I guess, a market where there used to be a monopoly. And I think that that's something excellent to keep in mind as well is, you know, whether you choose to go to Swordcraft, whether you choose to go to Exodus, whether you choose to go 1 week at each, you're all still LARPers. And one thing is that we don't tear each other down based on whichever game we prefer. That we are here to enjoy the same hobby, maybe at a different event, run by a different organization, but when you boil it down to that, we are all dressing up ridiculously and beating on nerds with fake sticks. Let's not use it as a reason to tear each other apart. We're not football teams. We don't need to worry about toothless Collingwood supporters. Oops, did I say that out loud? Anything like that. So...
Yeah, literally just saying that. I think, yeah, one LARP game can't cater to everyone's preferred method of play. So there being two different ones, like you said, I hope it strengthens the LARP community and brings even more people into our crazy hobby.
The truth of the matter is what people don't actually understand is that we have one of the most unique things in the world with the battle games, essentially, because we're the only people who are doing it. And it's because of the culture we have here and the way things are here, because the LARP scene in Australia is really young and small, on the scale of compared to Europe and stuff like that. Even maybe comparable to the America or something like that. I'm not sure what their scene's like at the moment.
Population density is a
Population density, yes. Also, insurance thing is a problem too, which makes it really difficult in America. But that's a completely different discussion, that one. So yeah, we have something really unique here. If you try to do this in Europe, you probably fail. Because there's already almost a LARP every weekend going somewhere in Europe, probably next door if you really pay attention. Maybe a train trip for a couple of hours, you can get to another LARP, and you're doing this week in, week out if you wanted to. There's so much LARP in Europe where there isn't here, where the weekly battle game works here because there's essentially almost nothing else. So yeah, we have this unique thing, and the name of this has been going out. People have been learning about it. Like when I went to Italy and did that, I started talking to people going, "Oh yeah, you mean Swordcraft? You hear that?" And I've been in Europe and stuff like that. It's kind of like, wow. So it's been out there. So we have this really unique thing, whatnot. But yeah, you're right. There are certain parts of it that need to be repaired and whatnot to sort of help move it along. But yeah, absolutely, more people.
Yes.
Yeah.
More people, bigger events. Blood and Gold itself. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, because I know that the ticket sales are nowhere near as good as they were last event. And the potential of them not getting all that much higher at this particular stage. Not 100% sure why. I know it's not because of Exodus. I know this has already happened before even Exodus was even known about by the majority populace. Because if it had not been a problem, most of the early bird tickets would have been purchased really early. But the middle tier of early bird tickets, as far as I know, are still available, which means there's not even 400 tickets being sold yet. So it's a very important thing. This is, again, I want to bring this out, put you somewhat on the spot to find out why this is happening, potential, or at least theories are possibly why it's happening. And I think, as what you said, is trying to repair a lot of the damage that's occurred to get people to come back into it. I think is also part of it too. So do you think there's anything on top of Blood and Gold itself specifically that's causing this particular problem, or is it grouped together?
I'm not an organizer, but I'll go on a limb and say that the decision to change the world is a large contributing factor. People who had invested years of their time and their life and their energy into Althea and Althean characters, and although I believe that a contributing factor is specifically the decision to use the Warhammer world, any change of world, whether it was to Warhammer or something else, was going to lead to some reduction in players. I definitely think that it wouldn't have been as severe if it had have been a world more tailored to the community, but that's just my theory. Obviously, we'll never know what would have been.
That's true.
I think so. Going up to Warsong, talking to people up there, because Queenslanders used to come down in big convoys.
In big convoys,
and they are fantastic, and they're great role players, and they always do great costumes and everything. When I was talking to them, they would say this is like a wait and see kind of event for them, where they want to maybe hold off for this one because it's a big trip to come down.
Yeah, it's a big investment.
Yeah.
Even for people who live in Victoria.
Yeah, even for
it's a big investment.
That is true. Yeah.
So they want to see, how is the game changing? Is it going to be worth that? And I really hope that it is.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of people being unsure and just wanting to wait and see, and that's like completely fair enough in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really hard to measure these particular type of things, and that is actually a valid reason to not come along, because it is a new event. You don't know what it's going to be like, so there's a lot of unknowns at this stage, and we'll just have an event and see what happens.
Conversely, if it's a smaller and a more intimate event, that might lead to better role play, more interaction.
It might,
people really getting out there more.
I think so. Like another thing I'm seeing, but it's actually not a problem that I'm seeing. It's more of an unknown at this stage. Is that Quest, while pushing more towards what a lot of people consider a traditional LARP, with more role playing and less combat, there is still combat. there's still mass combat, and there's still essentially the Friday night thing happen at Quest because it's part of it. It will never be taken away. And I know that a lot of people are happy on the very last day. Everyone gets together and have this big massive fight right at the end, irrelevant of what reason for. When you see, especially in the past, when we've seen 600-700 people on field, it's absolutely fantastic. So we understand that that is essentially part of the game still. However, originally we had a means to have that happen all the time and for a reason, and almost schedule it, at this time, every day, and you just organise who you're fighting and over what territory and whatnot. Now we're not going to have that. We are going to have combats that are sort of brought out on a role-playing level. So this is something, it's kind of newish in a particular sense, so it's kind of really interesting to see how this will actually turn out. Because it's all based on these 4 NPCs will help driving reasons for people to want to fight together, or against each other, and bring others into it.
And the decision as well to focus on those smaller scale engagements throughout the week. I think that one potential issue is because it was such a significant change compared to what people are used to, that maybe a lot of these player guides that have been out only in the last couple of weeks would have been better served coming out earlier to give people more of an idea of, okay, I can buy my ticket now, I know what to expect. Whereas until these guides have come out, a lot of people are sitting there just like, well, yeah, I can buy my ticket, I'll get the early bird pricing, but what am I actually paying for? What is the event that I'm actually outlaying over $100 just on the ticket, not factoring in camping supplies, food, drink, all of that fun stuff, travel, especially for obviously the Queenslanders, WA, South Australia, New South Wales players. I believe I've seen today that there's actually somebody over from the US for this Blood and Gold event as well. So, travel on an international level as well.
The fact that we actually are getting it though is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's really good that we actually be seeing that particular light and actually getting
And as our lovely executive have mentioned, that we won't be seeing any rules changes the day before. So I'm fully expecting...
I'm just going to bring a whole wad of paper with new rules at the actual event
You
itself.
get a rule.
Midweek rules changes are back? Great.
Yeah. I don't know. Quests have evolved a lot, though. Like,
They have.
since my first one was Soulkill, I know you quested it summer and...
Yeah,
before that.
treetops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, treetops and summer.
The treetops before the treetops that everybody knew remembers.
And the games have changed a lot. For me, I love the faction quests and the player autonomy behind deciding to siege or to ally or back someone up. Or, that for me was great.
Yeah, ain't nothing like getting woken up at 8 a.m.
Yeah, by a bunch
by
of
the
angry
elves.
I stand by that decision.
No, it was a good decision. I mean, you got us.
Good memories, good memories.
But,
Actually, someone's asked the question from one of the Queensland people who said that they basically answered the same question you answered, was that they are coming, but probably not this particular quest. To see what's going on. There is still mass combat, but it's not specific around sagas anymore.
yeah, that's no.
So there's no
So
sagas
we currently
involved
don't
anymore.
have a saga.
So basically, it's going to be, there are 4 NPCs. They're going to try and cajole warbands together to do their bidding, essentially, in a more role-play sort of methodology.
Yep.
More than this is sagas, go fight over a territory. It's more of a create a story of some particular type to try and get people to clash with each other.
Yeah, we've got new ways to incentivize players to get behind these fights. The quest that we did try these sagas as the main reason behind battles, that got pretty tiring, and by the end of the week, people were done with it. It was often unbalanced.
In this particular methodology, though, that it's still going to be unbalanced.
Between the merchant princes? Or...
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll
Maybe
see.
they've
That's
got-
true.
They've got
That's true.
tricky ways.
That is true.
Don't
We will see.
underestimate
Yes.
the merchant princes.
I think as well, though, that there's a bit more of a focus, at least from what I've read in the player guide, on making the Merchant Prince fights more balanced. So I know that the example they use in the player's guide is Merchant Prince A says, I need 35 Muppets to go guard this caravan. Merchant Prince B says, I need 35 Muppets to go and stop this caravan.
Yep.
Which I think is, compared to the siege quests, the faction quests, even the tower game quest, where you get entire factions rocking out to try and contest these objectives, focusing on trying to balance the numbers like that. In some ways it's relieving, in some ways it's concerning, because it could make for a much better experience for those that do go into those fights and find that it's not their faction of 20 people versus that faction of 100 people. But as I'm sure we can all recognize from Friday nights, numbers don't always equate to balance. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see where that falls on that scale.
Yeah, that is true. Given SA has been running for 2 quests, this is the question's been posted, since 2012-ish, how come it still seems like this is their first event?
Organisation and event-wise is the end of that question.
Organisation event-wise, yeah.
I think there has been a lot of event organisers.
Yes, there
since
has.
That started.
Yes.
And for reasons, people leave and new people come in. So not everyone is practiced at running these massive scale events.
This is also
This is a
new.
new setting, so coming into it, we are trying to leave behind a lot of the old ways of doing things and come into this new world. So in that way, it can feel like a new kind of setting, a new Swordcraft.
I think the terms you guys have used is relaunch,
Basically.
which
Yeah.
it means that it is new. So if it feels new, that's because it's
It is.
a relaunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely are some things that, from somebody that's been playing since those early quest events, it does feel at times that the organisation can be a bit slow to set things in stone. And obviously a lot of that comes down to, as we've discussed, like the ticket sales at the moment are quite low when compared to. So it's hard for them to plot out things like warband campsites when they don't know how many people are actually going to be in each warband, which then flows on and makes it look like they don't know what they're doing, that they haven't got that arranged, when it's more that they can't get that arranged until our wallets open up and we've got our tickets. So
I think often progress also feels quite slow, and this is, people often forget that the executive, the organisers, like, we're real people, real lives. Most of us work like 9 to 5, if not 8 to 5, and so a lot of the communications, regardless of where we live, can really only happen in spare time. And so things like player guides that have to be approved and written and read by everyone, it takes a long time because not everyone has the free time all the time to go, yep, it was good. So it just takes time. We're just real people. And I need my naps.
The last one, Madeline was talking about the mid-quest cry.
Yeah,
That's one of the most
it's like,
real things.
She said that and was going,
Yeah.
you're not a warband leader if you haven't had one.
Not mid, but definitely
At some point. Mine usually comes the day before quest, when I've reached that, like, that precipice of that prep, like, I can't prep anymore.
I break a power tool before a festival event. I'm always like, this thing isn't working.
I
Break
think
the
that
tool I
pre-quest-
needed to make the thing to work.
That pre-quest cry, that's a part of the quest prep. It's get it out now so it doesn't come back until the end of the event.
Yeah. I remember the day before quest this time last year, it was actually my birthday and everyone's trying to be like, hey Heather, let's do something for your birthday, and I was like, no, there's too much quest prep to do, don't even talk to me. But like, but it's your birthday. I was like, you don't understand. I need to pack. Yeah, very stressful for me. Everyone's just trying to be like, it's okay. I was like, it's not okay. Yeah.
Alright, we're going to have a quick break.
Yep.
You guys are going to head off, and then you are hopefully going to be replaced by some other people, which I've already given away if you're watching the stream.
I hear one of them's Ryan Gosling. So
Yeah. Ryan Gosling again. Alright, we're going to be back in 5 minutes. Once I finally get the actual competition screen going. Alright, welcome back everyone. Thank you for sticking around. Oh, look at 2 new faces, which you've probably not seen before. How are you doing, girl? Alright, let's get into the very first question. If you can answer it, which was the next Swordcraft town hall meeting.
Next town hall meeting. Okay. Well, obviously after Quest, we'll be releasing surveys to get feedback from people to see what they think. Following those surveys, we'll start thinking about town hall meetings. We do want to hold more community events. For example, we also floated the idea of a men's shed type thing. Just more community gatherings, making it less... I mean, you know, Friday nights are awesome, but we also have this really cool community, so...
Friday nights we're mostly busy bashing each other's swords.
Well, exactly, and you know, when it's... Like, let's face it, it's a testosterone-fueled event every Friday night. People get excited, people get angry, and we do want to kind of provide more spaces for people to interact where they're not just hitting each other. So, I can't actually answer specifically when the next town hall meeting will be because...
Yeah, you're waiting for some things to happen to kick into place.
Exactly, you know, Quest is in like a week and a half and
Yeah.
we're all losing our minds. So after
I'm
that...
good.
Yeah. But we're looking at next Monday, hopefully pending approval from Melbourne City Council, we'll be holding a focus group for women in the community, as well as another one for queer members of the community, just to get a better idea of their concerns for Quest, just so we kind of know what we can do to make them more comfortable with the upcoming event, because it's not something we've addressed specifically before. So that's kind of what's coming up, and I'll hopefully be updating that in the next few days. We were hoping to run one last night, but we couldn't get approval, so it's just been a bit crazy trying to get everything sorted. Obviously, it's all happened quite quickly in the past few weeks as well, since I've assumed that position. But we're trying our best, and it's definitely all in the pipeline, and we'll let people know as soon as it's happening.
Sorry.
Sorry, but Legasp. Oh my God, Heather and Jonagon. Who are you two again?
Oh God, I don't even know.
Maybe for the people playing at home.
If you couldn't tell by my accent, I'm not actually Heather. I'm Madeline. I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Took me a moment to notice.
Yeah, I know. I'm disappointed too, guys.
Completely
It's
changed
okay.
person. Must be the hair.
Yeah, I'm Madeline. I recently took on the position as Community Engagement Officer at Swordcraft. I run a blog about swords and stuff called Sun and Swords, and yeah, that's me. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Kieran.
I would hope you'd know.
I'll make things. I'm tired.
I dragged him in here.
Big
I just wanted to sleep out in the car.
All right, so I want to get into your question. The question you want to ask was about essentially. I should probably say it properly just so I don't insult anyone.
So I can't even remember what my question was.
The face paint question.
Oh boy.
Race face.
Race face.
Okay,
That's the
yeah.
word.
Yeah.
Yep.
Race face. That's the word.
I think Heather actually brought that up.
Oh,
but
did
yeah,
Oh.
that wasn't me, but I mean, I'm aware of the
She
situation.
brought up the idea a little bit, yes. So
Yes.
well, actually, let's get into it.
Somebody in the chat asked about, or mentioned face paint earlier as well.
There's a difference between face paint and blackface.
No, but I can see the comparisons being drawn. Basically, for people who aren't in the loop, LARP girl Kaza, she brought up the issue of blackface in the Bickling community group
because some pictures were posted from a recent ball where people were dressed as what they claimed to be drow, but unfortunately the pictures taken of them were shockingly similar to blackface, basically. Which, just for people who aren't aware, isn't actually the act of painting your face black as if you're African American. It's actually something incredibly offensive. There's a whole history to it.
Minstrels.
Yes, yeah, just look it up, educate yourself, because a lot of people were saying, oh, well, if you're offended by someone painting themselves black, then you're the racist. No, that is not the issue. Please educate yourself before saying that. Like,
it's also not what racism is.
Yeah, I know, okay? Look, first of all, disclaimer, I am Canadian, and a lot of people on this thread were saying, take your issues elsewhere. Racism is not a problem in Canada. Go away, you stinky American. Which is pretty rude, really. The Quebecois didn't really react well to Kaz's criticism, so it's kind of sparked a whole worldwide talk about this issue again. Because obviously the way that they reacted has made a lot of people uncomfortable, because Bicoline's kind of thought of as the pinnacle of LARP, and then all of a sudden they're reacting in such a negative way towards the way she phrased her post as well. It wasn't offensive, it wasn't accusatory.
Sorry, I'm just sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone here read her post?
No.
Okay. You've read it.
I did, I read it at quarter to midnight, and I'd been up since 5,
it's not
so,
accusatory. It's actually very nicely worded, basically saying, hey guys, I don't know if this was an issue, but I'd like to know what you think about it. Like, she wasn't calling them bad people, and everyone just jumped down her throat. They got super offended by it, and of course it quickly turned to like a flame war, people saying horrible things about her personally for bringing up the issue. You know, it's basically what you'd expect from a bunch of internet trolls. And I think people just expected better from Bicoline, which we hold up as this amazing LARP. So
the problem with LARPs, in fact, not even LARPs, any community that involves other people, is that you're always going to get these particular type of people, and it's really hard to control.
Mm-hmm.
Really
and
hard.
that's what I was going to say. Is like, I don't think it sort of comes back to Dushir did Bicoline.
No.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
It's more those people who got inflaming from both sides. It was
like Bicoline was basically sitting there having breakfast on something that hands on fire.
Like the guy losing his eye too. Someone
The
losing
arrow?
their eye?
The arrow thing?
The arrow thing, yeah. But also, like, actually finding information about that event is difficult. It's everyone reacting to, we're banning IDV roundheads. You know, that, like, and it's that sort of thing too. And they were like, look, there's been an incident, and they didn't, like, labour on it, but they're like, here's our reasons, you know, here's our data, here's, like, the fucking, you know, scientific, you know, they got engineers in the community to do like stress testing from different weapons at different poundages on the different types of ammunition, and they're like, in conclusion, roundhead's bad. And then everybody just went nuts. Like, it was insane. Yeah, and it was the same thing. Like, and I think probably like those two things in quick succession probably haven't helped Bicoline, who are just trying to run the game. Yeah, in recent months.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if my community was reacting in the way that Bicoline reacted, like, if those were my members, I'd be pretty upset. People, I mean, have you read through all the comments?
No.
Don't read the comments.
No.
I haven't read them all. Well, I've seen some of them.
I'm just telling you, it's not a matter of people fighting on both sides. It's a matter of people bashing her.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not saying that's okay. What I'm saying is like, I'm going to Tim's point.
Also,
like,
the community,
it's less douchey to Bigoline's like problem that it's not like they spurred them on to have a go.
No, but they have said that they refused to comment on the situation.
Which
and that they will not take a stance on it. And apparently, sorry, this is just he said, she said. Apparently, one of the main organizers also dresses as a drow.
Yeah, which probably goes to some way that it's best that they don't comment because if they come out in favor or against, they're going to look like they're preferencing either of those arguments, whether they are or they aren't, and then that either empowers, you know, either argument, you know, and it's best to sort of not comment and hope that it kind of dies down as just a temporary furor, so that way you don't end up with a permanent division in the community. Whereas if you react really poorly to this sort of thing, you pick a side, you come out and you back a horse, and it goes wrong, you cause a split. And then that split could end up being pretty permanent.
One thing I would also is, from what Madeline's saying, is that there are members of the community or aspects of the community that are being quite aggressive to the individual who's raised what they view as a legitimate issue.
Yeah.
If nothing else, I would think that the game should take the steps to comment on that behavior.
And they don't. They haven't said anything about that.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. They should. Yeah. They should do something about that.
Yeah, like if an organization's not, even if an organization's choosing not to take an issue on, or take a stance on an issue like that, they should have an issue with their members treating each other that way.
Yes. Yeah. I was just commenting on them not commenting. That was my point. Yeah. That them as an organisation, it's best for them to be hands off on that issue.
No
Whereas,
comment is a comment on its own right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Inherently, this brings into the concept of, not to take away from the actual issue itself, but is it one of those situations, like many situations, that probably would have been best had it not been posted on a public thing and actually be brought up with the actual organisers themselves in a more private sort of thing where it could be investigated properly and handled better?
I believe multiple people have already brought it up,
Yeah.
and they've basically been told that the organization won't be commenting on it.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah.
So that's why I
She
think that's
put it
why
up
she
out
brought
of
it up as a
frustration.
community. Yeah, out of frustration. Like, she
Yeah.
wanted a community discussion about it.
Yeah.
She wasn't. Her post didn't really prompt a flame war, though.
No. Yeah. It was.
Well, it shouldn't have if people were reasonable. But
People reasonable on the internet.
We gotta.
I
Yeah,
know.
I
What
mean,
was I thinking?
Someone's asked a particular question, and I don't think you've even thought about it until this has come up.
Oh,
good. Which is, what is Exodus' stance on face paints?
Are we talking face paints or race face?
¿Por qué no los dos? Ba-ba-da-da-da-da-ba-da-da-da.
This is where you start getting into difficult territory because there are certain things that different communities will find acceptable. Example being that it is very popular for a lot of LARPers globally to put on imitations of woad. The blue streaks in symbology and things.
Yep.
And that's perfectly acceptable, even though that may be referencing Nordic or Celtic heritage of some people who might find it proud. As far as I understand, I mean, I have not personally seen anyone say that they're not comfortable with that. There may be individuals who say that they're not comfortable or happy with that. But, again, as far as I can see, the general consensus on that is that that is okay. Where that differs from is something where you start getting into things that look like blackface. And that's difficult territory that people who want to play your classic D&D drow that have the midnight skin rather than, you know, like a dark brown African sort of look. But the problem is that white people in the past making fun of Africans and African Americans by doing minstrels went for more of a black colour and denigrated them. So, like you said, it's a charged history. And unfortunately, that kind of taints something that may not necessarily be intended that way. So, the difficulty there is in finding what our community is comfortable with. And heaven forbid that they are comfortable with blackface, because the minute I find out that a majority of people playing my game are planning on supporting blackface, I'm either walking away so that they can play their racist game, or they're getting banned if they're just a noisy little minority. That's what I want. But I don't define the stance. This is why we're putting in the community standards team. The community standards team is a cross-section of our community, elected 2 positions elected by leaders, 1 leader elected by the community, and then 2 appointed by directors to balance out other things that might have been missed in those elections, like race, gender, and sexual identity. And then those 5, independent of us, will make decisions on things that are issues either brought by directors saying, we've seen this as a problem, can you make a decision? And generally it will be in relation to the conduct of individuals. or reports put to the Exodus Community Standards email by members of the community that they see as issues. So the stances will be defined by the community, at the very least a representation of that community.
Can I actually ask
So I think,
Sorry.
in short, we don't have an official one yet, but I'm saying my personal position is that I think it's dangerous ground when you start skewing closer towards those things that are racially charged and not acceptable. And I know that so far those that have been nominated for the leadership position and those that have been elected to the 2 community positions, those 3 so far, will definitely keep those things in mind. And I know that we as directors, when we appoint our 2 choices, we will be making sure that, like I said, that cross-section is represented, but there are people who will be capable of assessing those choices fairly and justly, but with all consideration given to the attitudes of the community. That's why that cross-section is important.
Now, the question I want to ask you, especially because you know about this topic more than anyone else here, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because one of the things that someone's put here is that just say no to blackface, and for me, it's a case of thinking about everything that you do, whether it is having blackface and is the right thing to do, which inherently we all agree it's not the right thing to do. However, if you come to a LARP wanting to play a drow, put on blackface, just black, you know, put on your white wig and your black ears.
Black on your face rather than black face. Maybe a better way of putting it.
I don't know. I would say just don't do it. I mean, just use gray. Use different ways to paint your skin. Just don't paint yourself black. I mean, it's not that hard. Just don't do it.
The other thing is,
Just don't.
like, you start to get some of that higher end stuff as well. You can throw in prosthetics and things that will completely alter the structure and shape of your face.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to play something that is inherently non-human and, you know, start to go into that sort of that mindset, having something that changes the way that your face is shaped, that, you know, maybe, you know, makes your jawbone stick out like horns or something like that, or I don't know. But there are ways of incorporating face paint into something like that where you're looking more at something that is sort of
Like a demon.
like almost like it just not human.
There's a lot of people who do that at Drakenfest, and they
Yeah.
Yeah, it
have,
looks great.
yeah, but they have black and darkly coloured faces.
Mm.
But like I said,
But
it's those prosthetics that
yeah.
take it away from the human element, and I think in a lot of
It
people's eyes,
distances itself
distances it
enough
from that charged
from
history.
And I think the issue, the pictures that people originally saw from Bickley that they were offended by, the people didn't paint their lips.
Yeah.
See, that's better
Okay,
context. I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
They didn't have, like, if they had elf ears, you couldn't see them. They just looked like,
So,
Did they have the white wigs?
oh, I can't remember
One
off the
of
top.
them
I think
did.
one of them did.
but
One of them
I
did.
think one
there's
of them
like a
didn't.
brunette or mousy blonde in there who
Mm.
didn't.
Just looked like
And
they tried to
yeah, and their
cosplay
lips
Spark
were quite
or
pink,
something.
and like, you know, I give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they did paint their lips, and then over the course of the night they're
Washed
eating
off.
and it washed
It
off.
washed
But I
off,
mean,
perhaps.
just why walk that line? Why not just paint yourselves gray? You know, why not just don't?
It's an education thing as far as I'm
Yes.
concerned. Because you're not there, we don't know those particular people. You are right. Until you actually get them in an environment where you can actually talk to them and find out if they are actually being racist or known to be racist in the past. To go, you know, you're doing this. Most people don't actually realize they're doing it. So you have to just educate them and just basically say, no, stop it, and here's why, to educate them. And after that, you'll hopefully solve that particular problem, and they'll either stop doing it or at least actually do it properly.
But what happens when you try to educate them and you try to bring it to the attention of the community and they say, "Go away, you stinky American"?
It's again, it is exactly the same thing. It's like, no, I agree. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be going, okay, cool. I listen to what's going on and stepping back and not reacting, because that's what most people do. They just react before they actually think about what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It is, everyone has a valid idea of what this should be. Everyone should be able to have a say without someone jumping down their goddamn throat. I agree on that, which is a separate issue because it's not just on this blackface issue that this happens. Basically, if someone has brought up an issue of some particular type, they're allowed to bring that issue up and allowed to not be told to basically fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Irrelevant of what the actual issue is. And that is again another aspect of what you have to look at in people. You probably might have to come up to them. Some people really do just need to be educated to stop being a dick. We say it within the rules. We say it like behind closed doors when we say be nice to everyone in our rules, which equates to us basically saying don't be a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't realize they're being a dick sometimes. Some people inherently are dicks because part of their upbringing makes them that. So there's two ways you could fight it. You can ban them and just push them away from the community just to go into another community to be a dick, or actually try and change them if you can.
In some regards, though, you do run into a line there where, I mean, obviously, Madeline, you've made it pretty indicative that your stance here would be that there is no place whatsoever for blackface paint. Would I be wrong in saying that?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Well,
I mean, if people are offended, why walk that line? Like, if someone's uncomfortable, why push that?
and I guess the thing there is, though, that in itself can be at times a dangerous stance, because obviously there are other things that people view as racially charged items or sensitive items. Native American Indian headdresses being
You
one
shouldn't
that's,
wear those.
Yeah,
being one
shouldn't
that's
be
come
like
up in the community. But at the same time, you do find objects that a certain select few people will bring up just to try and throw that in the other direction. One that's been mentioned in the chat was what would happen with an Asian individual in Roman armor. Would that be considered offensive?
There was
Is-
a guy who did that in Ravenna for quite a while.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
was anyone made uncomfortable by it?
How many people need to become uncomfortable? Is it one?
I think
Is
if
it-
one person speaks up, it should be addressed.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, you know, obviously, and I don't disagree that things like that necessarily, there isn't a place for all of them, but I don't necessarily agree that just because somebody is offended, something needs to be banned or taboo.
No, but I think a discussion needs to be had. I'm not saying that action needs to be taken. I'm saying if one person is offended, there needs to be a discussion about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think a discussion should always be had with whatever the issue is, in proportion to number of people involved, including those who might be put off, and also the size of the reaction. Which, you know, the bigger it gets, the more difficult it gets to maneuver.
Yeah.
But yeah, your measures will be dictated by the context. In, you know, to some extent. You know, like this whole thing with Bickling, they can't just pull, if it was sort of a few people who saw the photo and were uncomfortable, hypothetically, they can't sort of pull them into a room with the people who did it and sort of say, look, you know, hypothetically again, that they're, you know, apologetic and they're sorry, you know, the black washed off their lips over the night and the other guy took his wig off, you know, because it was hot and uncomfortable. It was towards the end of the night, something they had no intention of this getting this way. You know, like if it had been a small thing, maybe that was something that could be resolved small, direct, and personally. Now it's blown up and it's become a public and community issue, and gone global. That option is probably, it's not entirely off the table, but it's not remedial anymore. You then need to start looking at things like, you know, your classic sort of damage control and PR things and things like that, and then proper community reconciliation actions and things like that. And yeah, bigger the reaction, the bigger your response has to be. That's sort of my point there. Yeah, because like you bring up a good point. Like, you know, how many does it need to be before you do something about it? And I think you're right. It doesn't matter how many.
Well, I think that one thing though is that if there is one thing I do definitely agree with, it is that perhaps the Bickling organisation and any organisation, they need to have a stance. They need to have publicised what, not necessarily, like what their response is to these kind of things, because, you know, obviously in this instance, it is something that has blown up. It is something that has caused an issue in the community, and it is something that's obviously been quite divisive within that community as well. And I think for the organisation to step back and say no comment, no comment, no comment, like I was saying, that in and of itself is a comment. It is basically, you know, blah de blah, the tyranny of evil men just requires good men to do nothing. And I mean, it's something that I personally have no horse in that race. I don't personally agree that it is inherently offensive, but I can understand and respect where people that do see that are coming from. And I think that, going back to sort of your statements, Package, on how you would sort of, in some regards, bow to the will of the community, the greater majority, even that, in some regards, is a dangerous stance, because as you've said, if the majority of the Exodus community turned around and said, yeah, nah, blackface is fine, let's do it, let's have Pete the Minstrel on field, that you'd probably step up and walk away.
I would walk away.
And it's good for you to say that as an individual, because that obviously shows the caliber that you're willing to stand by and you're willing to accept. But an organization needs to make those statements as well. Whether that be waiting until your community standards team is in place, and the first thing you task them with is, hey guys, come up with the standards on what we accept in this, get it publicized, get it public, because the more wiggle room you leave for that kind of behavior, the more ingrained and the more...
We have our community standards up already. That's there. And the first words in that document are, respect is the default. Those are the first words. Hopefully those first 4 words are the guiding principle by which the team mostly operate.
So, a hypothetical, and this is probably going to toe pretty deeply over the line. Obviously, respect is the default. We should all be respectful of each other, whether it's around this table, whether it's on a field, anything like that. At a LARP event, do you feel there is room to explore potentially these, I'm just going to say, historical injustices? Is there a place, if it is handled with as much respect as possible, to showcase these kind of behaviors, to show people publicly why they aren't necessarily something that's appropriate?
Yes. Through metaphor.
Yeah.
That's really the only way you can do it. You can't involve historically oppressed groups and be like, hey, you can't have...
Hello, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Like, that's exactly what we did in Chesterwick. You're saying that we can't... Sorry, I'm just completely cutting you off there.
Okay.
Because you're saying you can't do those things with historically oppressed groups.
I guess, you
in
are
Chesterwick,
right, yeah.
That is precisely what we did. We incorporated in-character sexism into our lore in order to confront the idea about oppression of women in the Middle Ages. Because we wanted to make people uncomfortable. Because when you're using those concepts in LARP and people go, wow, that's really fucked up, why are you doing that? They start to kind of reevaluate their own behaviors. So, sorry, I know where you're going with that, but you're wrong.
I was still sort of stuck in that, like, the race.
Sorry, we forget that women are oppressed as well.
But the example aside, the mode, that's exactly one...
Yeah.
Like that's the thinking you need behind it when you're doing it.
That is the social experiment.
It's a social experiment that demonstrates why it is unacceptable.
Yeah.
You take the care to do it appropriately and as respectfully as possible.
And I mean, let's take a look at Black Powder and Bloodlines, like colonialism.
That's where I was going.
I knew you were. I just wanted to cut you off there before we went any further because I wanted to tell you were wrong.
Well, I was wrong.
Continue with why Black Powder and Bloodlines is a good example of this.
Essentially, like in that game, the whole sort of world behind it is a colonial setting. There is a native population, and they are not. That's it. They are not human. They are not, and I guess that is also part of what they're trying to do. Yes. They're trying to create this idea that they're not human. They're something other, and it's a player faction, and they've built in all these lovely mechanics to create a language barrier and things like that. It just works very, very, very well at making you as a player feel, I don't know, like they aren't human, like they are something other, like they
and
are.
then forcing you to make the decision between you and them.
Yeah. Like
it's uncomfortable.
It does. It makes you sort of, especially after the fact, confront the choices that you made as the character you were playing, especially in relation to the sort of this new world and where that could go. You know, if you take that into a couple of 100 years into the future, what's happened to these orcs? You know, what's happened there? Are they in the same sort of situations that a lot of colonized people find themselves in today? You know, I've always found that very interesting, and I know it's the point, really. That's the sort of thing that they're trying to make you feel, and that's, I think, the only way you can do that is you have to be trying to make your player base or other people around you question their own being, the way that they act as a person in their everyday life.
If you're attempting to morally guide, there's nothing wrong with a bit of moral guidance in a LARP. And that's why I love Black Powder. But if you're trying to morally govern, and that's sort of was my point with our community standards team, is that it's governing according to the morals and ethics by an appropriate cross section of our community in that team. So that way, they're almost self-governing in that way, and and then you get a rotation as well, so that way it stays fresh too. No ivory tower.
I'd definitely say that a battle game, like a weekly battle game, probably isn't the place to do very heavy exploration of race politics.
No, you can't.
Or anything really.
Let's face it. Yeah,
let's
it's
be real.
tough.
When you start to get into actual LARPs, then you get a bit more wiggle room, really.
But it also matters in the case of these guys at Bickerlane, what happens out of game too.
I need to interrupt for a very quick moment because there's a big discussion going in the chat room about all
good.
this too. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Be careful, guys. Everyone has an opinion, and text is really bad for actually bringing a lot of points across, and a lot of people don't articulate themselves very well in text. It's very important. If you are watching this and getting a bit frustrated with some of the discussion that's been going on, please, by all means, step away if you are and relax. And
What are they saying?
it's just two opinions going back and forth, and because I can't read it all.
No, that's all right.
And I'm getting bits and pieces here and there about, and it's going down a path of the concept of the concept of if I put this right, is that I think there's two arguments happening and they're not aligning with each other. That's how I'm perceiving it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going slightly off I can see both sides of the coin, what they're trying to achieve, but there's no connection between them to sort of resolve each other's opinions about the whole thing. And I think it's just a case of it's that mentality where some people are still acceptable of blackface if you do it correctly in such a way that it's not what it's become. However, a lot of people are also about just don't do it, which is realistically, it's one of those situations like the person who says we should still be able to do blackface, but I do understand why we shouldn't do it. If that makes sense.
I feel like we can move on now.
Yeah.
Just having the discussion. I feel like we can move
question.
on now. They can have their discussion. I think we've all shared how we feel about the subject.
That's true.
That's a good time for a comment that just got put in there of Mad's face says it all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My actual whole opinion on the whole matter is this is one of many particular issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gather around.
No,
Gather around.
Oh,
Stop watching your phones, people.
I have to
scroll back
Salty
a long way.
Welcome to Salty Dragon Time and watch us use our phones.
Wait.
Anyway,
yes.
what's the next
Phone
question?
time.
My whole point about this
No,
particular
please
thing.
I can't see the history, but that's
Time to double up.
wow.
Alright, stop watching.
Yeah.
Stop
You
watching.
can have that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, there's a lot going on in that chat, isn't there?
I've been.
Place is falling apart, so good. Gaffer tape, man.
Anyway, what's next?
Sorry. I'm trying to get to my original
Okay.
point because this is one of
I was
many of these
expecting the
points
mouth.
that are roughly aligned with each other. In my guys, focus.
You are rich.
It's okay, Tim. I'm paying attention. You just talk.
It's more of a case of how situations like this are approached is what I'm trying to get at. Whereas a lot of people like to jump down people's throats, which doesn't solve the problem.
Hello, chat.
Yeah.
Oh,
As I said, I think that if a problem occurs, a discussion needs to occur with the parties involved and not become this big flame war, which basically just fuels the fire and makes it far, far worse than what it has to be.
I shouldn't have given you
You
that.
shouldn't have given me that. Sorry, you've just said is painting
No,
your face
no,
to be
just-
around cultural appropriation. I don't think you understand the issue, and I think you need to look up what blackface actually is, whoever you are. I don't think you understand the historical context, and you're not educated, so please go educate yourself.
So somebody asked about
Anyway.
buying
Heather's
coppers
got you.
earlier.
Yeah. Oh
Someone
my
asked
gosh.
about buying coppers earlier.
Ugh.
Moving on to lighter topics.
Can I bring wine next time?
You
or
can
something?
bring wine.
Or
I reckon we
whiskey?
probably do need that.
Yeah, next time. Anyway.
Can we do it not on a work night then?
Okay. All right. We've only got 15 minutes left anyway.
Oh,
That was like a
gosh.
good 45 minutes of chatting, that one. Has anyone got some questions on the chat room that's not related to this? That they wouldn't mind being answered? Actually, we've talked to John about Blood and Gold a little bit. I think we've gone through a lot of stuff with him, and unfortunately that you weren't here or weren't listening to stuff like that.
Do you have any other blood and gold related questions that you think I can answer?
I'm trying to think of something that might come into it, because when I was talking to John, it was about good that you people have come on board, good that you've been going forward with the way you've been going. One of the questions I asked him, so it's up to you if you want to answer it again or not, or in a different way, was one of the questions I asked was essentially, and I brought this out on purpose, I did this on purpose to sort of try and get that discussion happening as opposed to people just yelling at each other.
You got it going.
Yeah, I know. Is the concept of, even though you guys become now part of the organisation of Swordcraft, that to me, from my perception, is that it still might not solve a lot of the problems that are there. It's just another wall that's been put in place to sort of give the illusion that something's happening. That's one of the perceptions I see and hear from a lot of people too. So, like this quest coming up, and I said it last when John was here, that I personally don't believe the person who's organising Quest should be organising Quest, because one of the main reasons is that a complete different state, for starters, makes it far more difficult to actually run and organise this stuff. And part of the reason why the information for Blood and Gold has been so late is because of someone who's organising it in a different state, as far as I'm concerned. At least that's one of the major factors.
Yeah.
Nepotism was the other one, but John answered that beautifully, so that one's a good one done.
What was the nepotism one?
The perception from, at least from me and a few people that I have talked to, not a huge group of people, is that it seemed like the three people who came forward in the more recent time were of a more specific group of people.
I could see how people can perceive that. But I mean, I don't know how he answered it. But,
Yeah, he answered pretty good, actually.
Okay.
He basically went down why the particular people were picked out of the particular thing, and the fact the list was actually quite larger
yeah.
of people to pick from, so, which is a good answer. It was a good
To
answer.
be honest, I think like Swordcraft got sick of me complaining about things and finally. I mean, for people who don't know, I had a fight with Swordcraft about 5 months ago regarding their harassment policy because I felt that they needed a more comprehensive harassment policy. At the time, I had disagreements with the board regarding how they should handle it, and I had quite a lot of in-depth discussions with Jeff about it. So. Yeah, I have a long contentious history.
I've got to answer someone's just really just like point formed this
My phone.
sentence.
No, sorry. I'm laughing because my phone has stopped everything.
Has it? Okay.
Because
Okay, sorry.
it said this app is using too much data, so we've removed some content.
All right. In what world is it nepotism? Okay, let me try and ask that question in a completely different way. The perception of nepotism,
Yeah.
whether it is or not. That's what I'm getting at. 'Cause
Yeah.
how people perceive things is different to how things actually are. And when that communication doesn't happen, then that's what becomes the truth.
Oh, exactly. And that's one of the reasons they brought us on board, is because that communication doesn't happen. One of the main issues is communication. Sorry, you have this face.
Sorry. I'm constantly reading the chat just to sort of see if there's any actual questions people are asking other than arguing about themselves or whatever.
Okay.
Because I got like this, like, in capital letters, in what world is it nepotism? And I said, I have to answer that question. It's like, it's the perception and reality are always two different things, and the people don't understand that. And when someone is getting a little bit frustrated, angry about the discussions happening and have to type that out in capital letters and stuff like that, and this is not this particular person, that happens to a lot of other people, it's a case of the perception. It's the perception. And if you can deal with that perception and discuss that perception and have the community group meetings like you've been having and stuff like that to sort of get that information across, then you bridge that gap. And that gets taken away and disappears.
Well, exactly. And I think one of the first things we need to confront is kind of that gap between the executive and the board and the community. Like, it definitely feels like there's a bit of an us versus them mentality. And I mean, I was a part of that. I saw that happening. Like, I mean, Nathan can tell you that I've also been disgruntled with how Swordcraft has handled things in the past, and I've felt that divide. And it has upset me, especially because I love LARP as a hobby. I love going to Quest, and it always frustrated me that there was nothing I could do. And so I think one of the main things that we need to change, and one of the main things that we're going to try to change, is bridge that gap, make people have a voice again, and make people feel like they can actually make an impact. So, for example, that feedback you've just given me about how Quest is organized, when we put together a survey after Quest, that survey is actually, not saying it hasn't gone somewhere in the past, I can't speak to that because, I mean, I've just been a part of the general player base, and becoming an executive member doesn't magically unlock all of the information and secrets of the past, so I can't really look back and figure out what was going on there.
Unless you make your own game.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that unlocks the secrets of Swordcraft past, but I'll leave that with you. But I'd like to take that feedback and apply it and do more town hall meetings and just do more things that connect the executive with the players. Because, I mean, we are players too.
Yeah.
Every single person on that executive, we play the game. Some of the board members, people who are a bit further away, maybe not. But, I mean, it's kind of up to us to help close that again. I don't know, I started rambling.
That's all good. No, that's actually a good answer.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I'm trying to do this particular type of chats is to try and use it as another avenue to try and get some of this information out. So I will not always get it right myself, and that's why I bring particular people like you along, because I know I'm happy for you to correct me if I'm wrong, yell at me if you need to, and I think we can at least come to a discussion and sort of figure it out. If we get it wrong, apologise the next time or so on and so forth. Yeah, so I don't have any more questions beyond that. They're like 8 minutes to kill.
Have we discussed our #1 quest tip?
Oh, the quest tips,
yeah,
of course, yes. I was actually, someone posted to me earlier a list of quest tips earlier. I was going to post them up, but because she said that she was going to give me a link to the person who made it in the first place, I never got it, so I'm not posting it up.
Cool.
But so yes, let's go to that quest tip.
Other than bring socks. We all know
We all know to bring socks. Yeah.
I love the immediate look at me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had the same thing. I was going to say the same thing.
Which
Disagree.
is great because
I didn't say anything in the chat beforehand. Disagree. 2 pairs maximum.
No.
You need at least 3.
What?
Nah.
You need like 10.
Nah.
look,
No,
I
you
generally advocate
No.
taking a minimum of 20 pairs of socks, and I don't even wear socks anymore.
So, the theory with 3 pairs.
Here we
No,
go.
No, is you have...
Morning, afternoon, evening.
No. The pair you're wearing that day, the pair that you've just washed, and that you're washing, that you washed that morning, the
Honey,
pair that
I
was
think
already...
we're the only
Whoa,
warband-
hang on, you wash your
Honey,
socks?
yeah, I was about to say, I think we're the only warband that does laundry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow,
No.
you guys are keen.
Yeah.
Have you met us?
Okay,
Yeah.
quest tip. Do laundry at Quest.
Quest
it
tip.
goes for a week. You will smell if you have 1 shirt.
Quest tip, harden the fuck up.
Oh no, I try and bring
I did that.
Yeah.
I had plenty of experience just wearing one tunic.
He was in Free Company. Come on.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I know that stank.
See,
Right.
you've had the cush life now. You've gone soft.
No.
You used to be cool, man.
No, I put effort into smelling good.
It is a
Yeah,
discipline.
I do the
not
same
to
thing.
bang.
I just actually bring huge amounts of costuming as much as I can. I almost have something for every day instead of just worrying about watching it.
So, my non-sock related.
Is the chat blowing up about socks now?
No.
Come on,
But there is
guys.
a lot of quest tips that I've already gone through, which is like, bring hot water bottles because it will be cold. That's a very good one.
Yeah.
Lip balm, definitely.
Since
'cause
we
people
only have like 5 minutes left, should we all just quickly go?
go for it.
Yeah.
You guys go for it. Yeah.
My number one quest tip is hang out with people who aren't in your warband and make friends outside of your warband.
If you can.
Also, if you're getting into trouble, drag people into it. If you see someone just standing around, be like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing, come with me, even if you don't know them, because, I don't know.
That's actually a
Get
really-
involved. Yeah, that was going to be my tip. is
Sorry,
just-
you can elaborate on it, why it's important.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're there for a week. We're there for 24 hours a day, 7 days of that week. If you're just going to sit around in your camp or in the town and just sit there and do nothing, that's fine. That might be all you want to do. You might just want to soak in the ambience. But there's always something going on. You've just got to look. If there's nothing going on, be the thing that's going on. Interact with people. Talk to them. Even if you're just bored and you choose to cut up a pair of socks, slap them on your feet and play a beggar for a while, do it. Just do things.
No. I've learnt something recently as a dungeon master, and it actually does equate in LARPing as well. There are some people who are happy just to watch. They don't need to be involved. If you put them on the spot, they're more likely to run away. Some people are happy to watch and see everything unfold and just go, wow, it was cool. So you really got to not just go, you, there, come here, because they're going to panic and not like it because they're outside of their comfort zone majorly. You can't force them into such a situation as far as I'm concerned. Be happy that some people are happy to watch and make sure that you, in prior, ask them, get to know them first, get to know them as a person. If they're actually able to do that type of stuff first, might be good before you start pulling them into things. If you pull some random guy that looks like they're standing by themselves, but because they're just watching.
We're just having flashbacks to the peasant mob encasing poor Witcher kid.
So yeah, we've said that a lot. We've said that basically get people involved, get as many people involved as you can, see anyone who's sitting by themselves, get them involved as you can. I don't hugely agree with it 100%.
It's all about consent, right?
It is. It's not just about consent. Like, someone may even say yes to you, but they're still not used to the whole situation. So just suddenly thrusting them into a high-level situation because they look like they weren't doing anything is still bad, even if they said yes.
Yeah. Peer pressure can make people say yes.
Exactly. So if you have prior asked them if they want to be involved in something or not, don't just ask them and say, you want to be involved in something? They go, yeah. And then don't tell them what it is and don't discuss it with them. Like, it could be that bad. Someone goes, yeah, I did what I did. I was like, I got him involved. And all of a sudden he's like, well, what's going on here? Thrust! What's going on? It's that. It's understanding that when you do get someone involved, do it properly based on that particular person, who they are. Actually get to know them a little bit, at least. Just so to know what level you can bring them into. You find that the best way to probably get people involved is to start them small and build up their confidence and build them up. Some people inherently will always go into these things hammer and tongs, and you can pull them into the highest level of stuff and they'll just flow with it. Other people takes a little parts, little bits, and get consent most of the time too. But yeah, you got to understand at what level you bring them in. So that's very important. Other than just going, yeah, random person, come here.
Nah, throw them in the deep end.
Yeah, I know, but we'll let you have that.
It can backfire. Seriously, it can backfire. If you thrust them into the situation they're not comfortable with, they're more likely not come back to LARP.
Yeah. I'd say, like, now, especially now with Quest going for a whole week, bring things to do in your downtime. Because there will be downtime. There will be times when you're not doing anything. There will be times when
Come to the shisha.
you are bored out of your mind. So bring something to do.
Smoke a pipe.
Oh,
With
Smoking
tobacco.
is bad.
yeah, come.
Wait, are you not allowed to smoke at Quest anymore?
No,
Yeah.
we just don't want to back up big tobacco here,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, sorry.
Don't smoke, kids.
Kieran smokes a pipe at Quest, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, you're
And he has
telling
asthma.
Everyone about my bad habits.
And his medical history.
Yeah, that's mean. No, I mean things like ideally something that is, you know, within the theme that you can do that allows you to sort of unwind and decompress a bit. And that could be social or just something that you do yourself. So it could be some sort of craft project or something like that. You know, learn to knit, you know, sew something. That's all well and good. Or you could bring some board games or dice and try and, in character, learn how to play, you know, some sort of medieval game or something like that. Or, you know, if you're any good at it, try and hustle some people in chess, you know. Just something
Make your own fun,
Yeah.
I think is what it comes down to.
kind of make your own fun, but your fun doesn't have to be big. You can't be expected to be big for an entire week. So bring small things that you can do that will help you stay in character even when there's nothing else going on.
Like a Pomeranian.
Wait, what?
What?
A Pomeranian, it's a small dog.
I understand what a Pomeranian is.
Is this your tip? Take a
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're saying bring something, you know, small because you
Keep
can't
it in the SD.
keep it in.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
My tip, actually, especially for Blood and Gold and generally Quest in general, the game doesn't end at 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's a big one.
A lot of people think that it does after they've had their dinner. They just basically start drinking and that's their night over. I run an underworld, thieves and all that type of stuff, and I run most of it during the night. You know, and other people are running other things. There are other events happening and stuff like that. 6 o'clock, dinner time, when you're having your dinner, is not the end of the game. On that same note, you don't have to be up at 9 a.m. in the morning either. I'm generally not. I don't usually start most of my stuff till 11 a.m. 11 a.m. is roughly when I start my stuff. I mean, I'm up earlier than that, but I don't start anything quest-wise until 11ish myself. Any other tips?
Drink a lot of water.
Yes.
Bring Barocca. Yeah.
The best tip I think I can give is it doesn't matter what level you're at, leader or, you know, down the bottom of the dungeon. Keep an eye out
For others, yeah.
because you don't know when someone you do or don't know is struggling for whatever reason. And if you think they might be, approach carefully with consideration for the fact that they might be in character first. But if it is someone you know, then you should at least know the signs of when they're struggling and help them with it. Don't be afraid to sacrifice some of your time to help people with it, whatever it is that they might be struggling with. Because honestly, some of the best festival event memories that I've got from lots of different games is started out just helping someone who's having a stressful time or had gotten some bad news or even just, you know, stubbed a toe or twisted their ankle or something, you know, and you stay up with them to look after them. You drive them to the hospital or I don't know, you even just end up, and by the end of most of those stories, you do end up just laughing and joking with them. And the only downside that you have to mention is the fact that you lost some sleep to stay up, look after someone, swap stories, and tell jokes. To me, that's ultimately positive. So I'd say best tip, just keep an eye out and help each other.
And also, if you're having your mid-quest cry, don't feel bad about
Damn, I
it.
was going to make a joke.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say, be happy to tell them that they're allowed to have a big quest cry.
Yeah, it's not just me. I've confirmed it. It's not. I'm not the only one who cries like halfway through quest.
I think when you're saying a mid quest cry, people will inherently get frustrated, and they should be allowed to vent it, yell.
Not even frustrated. They might be excited, or it's just all overwhelming. Like there's a lot going on.
It's like if you're in that particular mode, just say, "Excuse me, just give me a moment." You know, go do your cry, yell at the sky for all we care. Whatever it is you need to just get some sort of release, and then say, "Apologize for that. I'm back in now." you know, or something like that. Or yeah, as you said, look out for other people who are struggling to deal with all this stuff that's happening. And yeah, you're right. Some people do actually have all this overwhelming stuff that's happening that's actually off the charts, super cool, and they can't process it all because so much is happening at once. I mean, that's even a possibility. Like they're actually having the best time they've ever had. They don't actually know what to do with it. You know, that type of stuff can also come into it as well. So,
Something interesting in the chat.
someone saying that they enlist 1 or 2 people to sort of do a look out for them specifically.
That's
so yeah,
good.
it's a good way of doing
Yeah.
it too. Yeah, yeah. That's to extend on that actually is like, especially as a warband leader or within a warband, you tend to look out for people within your own warband more than anyone else. Try and break that mold. You know, look at other people too and stuff like that as much as you can. Don't make a job of it, because then you'll spend most of your questions looking after other people, because there's at least 300-400 other people that could be having this particular problem. But you just keep an eye out on others and just try and bridge gaps between that warband level.
Yeah.
Make
And
it
I
out of character if you need to.
And I will say as well, like, at Quest, if you're having a hard time, if you're having a disagreement with someone, if you're uncomfortable with someone, and you feel the need to talk to a marshal about it or speak to someone at Swordcraft, feel free to come to me about it. I'm happy to talk about any issues, sort out any problems.
And on that same note, come to the Shishidan. I say it like I advertise.
You'll probably find me there. Let's be honest. You'll probably find me there anyway.
What people don't understand is that when I first thought the concept of the Shishidan together, I was trying to get others to get it up and running, and communication issues happened and it didn't, so I decided to do it myself. I got backing from the board, and what happened is I was trying to create an immersive environment for role-playing. That didn't actually happen. Something better actually happened out of it. I created an environment where people could actually come in and just relax and let their weariness of the day go. Have a joke. Talk about the stuff that they've done for the day or the week and stuff like that. And what I saw is that it created an environment where people could come back and relax away from either the warband troubles that they may be having, just relax, just enjoy the environment that we were putting together. And a lot of people really got a lot of that out of it. A way just to sort of sit back and unwind. And it was really good. That's why I said, come to the Shishidan. Come and sit with us and just relax on a pillow. And we've got tons more of them now. You know, we've almost doubled the pillows that we've had.
Excellent.
We're going to have like 4 shisha pipes going, hopefully, this particular time. We've got even a bigger space. We've got more blankets happening and stuff like that. We've got heaps of stuff. So it's a comfortable space. It should be warm most of the time. And we're there for all afternoon and most of the evening and stuff like that. The only time that we generally don't allow people in is when someone has put a private booking for the whole place. But other than that, it's usually just to ask if they can come in or not. Usually not too much of a worry. But even then, if you just want to hang out with us and just chat because you need a break from something, yeah, we could do that too. There's a lot of us there, so.
You keep doing that.
Shout out to the strategic placement of that bottle on the camera shot.
He does it every time.
He does
He's very
every
smart
time.
with it, yeah.
All right, have we got anything else anyone would like to discuss before we decide to end it for the night?
Yeah, I just want to quickly say we've got 2 huge events that I'm sure everybody on stream or otherwise is really excited for in the next month. Those, of course, being Avengers Endgame and Game of Thrones
Yep,
premiere.
yep,
Yes!
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
really hope this is a
Massive.
good month for us in the nerd community. So
And remember, if you're at Quest and you watch the first episode of Game of Thrones, remember that other people haven't. So, or if you go see Endgame, if you spoil it, I will murder you. So
I'm getting murdered.
yeah, do
No,
Please
like
don't ruin it
actual
for
dead.
everyone.
Oh, I know.
Not love dead.
I know what you're
real
talking about.
I'm very passionate about
dead.
Marvel. Do not mess it up for me. Anyway, that's it.
All right.
Endgame's going to be overrated.
Okay, can we go? Can we leave?
All
right, but-
This is fighting words. Can we stop this?
To go to the actual 2 things that everybody cares about, obviously, the next month, as the person that's an organizer for neither.
Submission of BAS statements, and the budget comes down soon.
It's also
We've-
American tax time.
Yeah. Just keep listing different
Different important
Yeah.
things for the next month. No, but we obviously do have Exodus launching this Friday, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing everybody that attends that event this Friday. And obviously Blood and Gold on the 15th, so 13 days away for those that are panicking at their own quest counters like we all are. In House de Mobrissa.
I
So
turned mine off.
Not a problem for you. But I do hope I enjoy seeing a lot of you there that are watching this stream at both events. So maybe not you at one of them, but
I mean, I could, but
nobody wants to see you at Exodus.
that's why I'm not going. Wouldn't that be a killer if I didn't turn up to
You
launch
went
night?
tried to go to Storecraft that night.
Oh, I'm gonna message Jeff now.
Probably you had to go for a Monday launch and launched yesterday. Everyone would have rocked up with Pavilion. You've just got a little April Fool's sign there.
Oh!
You missed out.
Everyone keeps telling me like, hey, why didn't you do this April Fool's idea with Exodus? We thought you were gonna. And like, I've had like 6 or 7 really good ones, and I was like, just
Next year. Next year. You
no,
got it. You
So
got
like,
it.
now you
too late.
missed it. No,
missed
you
it. It
had
was
all
first.
in-
It would have been perfect.
Alright. Thank you guys for coming along. I always appreciate your chats, and we will have the next one next month after Quest, which I think then will be Black Player and Bloodlines. We can talk about that one.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure I might actually see if Gareth and Lisa at least can come along for this one, and we'll have a good old chat with them, I reckon.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. They're usually busy on a Tuesday, so it may be a bit hard, but I'm pretty sure because we've got it down to one a month, I'm pretty sure I can twist their arms a little bit to make them come along.
They come in. They've got broken wrists.
Yeah. No idea what you're talking about.
If they can't do a Tuesday, though, you should get them in for another day just to talk about it.
I
Because
probably could.
they're
yeah.
seriously awesome. They have so much to say on the subject of LARP
They do,
that's
they
so
do.
valuable.
And we could also, debrief about Blood and Gold as well and go from there. So there's a lot to talk about
I'd have a
next
lot
month.
to get off my chest after Blood and Gold.
Yeah, you wouldn't even be going.
So I'm just really enjoying those jokes.
As for an all-female panel, I think I will aim for June. I think June would be a good place to do that because I definitely want to delve into that particular area. I think the more that this gets out of the female problems, I'm not saying it right, I know, I apologise.
No, what do you mean?
The harassment that you sometimes get, well, not sometimes, it's probably more than that, I don't know. The harassment, the treatment, whatever that's happening that needs to be brought forward so people
Unique
understand.
issues that we face in this hobby.
Yes.
Like being announced as a player satisfaction officer.
Oh yeah, that was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Shout out to all the guys who came up and made disgusting sexual jokes at me who don't even know me. I really
Wow.
appreciated that.
Wow. Wow.
Closest I've come to punching someone at Silcraft, I reckon.
Which just goes to show how ingrained things like that can be and why it is
Absolutely.
probably a good panel to have.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have a female host for that one? Because that'd be cool.
Can I host it?
No, you need to be a panelist.
Let me host it. Let me host it. Anyway, we'll get back to everyone.
This is my show!
We'll be back after this
Sit.
break.
Alright, we'll discuss that.
Tim will put the woman in her place, I'm sure.
The chat's gonna blow up again.
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna
alright.
get stuck here for another
Let's
hour.
go.
And you know
I
what?
need to go to bed.
My iPad
Alright.
died, I can't even read it now.
Oh
Now you were late. You owe this chat another hour. Let's stay.
no. I have to go
Alright,
feed my cat.
Thank you guys for coming along. Next month after Blood and Gold, we'll discuss Blood and Gold, we'll discuss Black Platter and Bloodlines, and that will probably take up 2 hours almost straight off the bat. Thank you all for coming and coming along tonight.
We should come in at Black Powder Kid.
So I just
Alright,
come
you can
naked.
do that if you want. I don't have any.
We should do this in kit at some point.
I
It'd
asked for the
it'd
first
be
one
much
that I was
more
on. I was like,
interesting.
"Is it meant to be in kit?" And he was like, "No, because it's not like that." I'm like,
it's a panel, man.
Anyway, let's go. I need to feed
can't
my
fit-
cat.
I said it before.
Alright,
and I'll
thank
say
you all
it
for coming
again.
along.
Thank you, John and Heather.
Good night. Thank you, Heather and John, for coming along as well. And good night to everyone who's been watching us, and hope you got something out of this. And don't stress too much about the chat, but please still have the discussion where you can. Good night, everyone.
Fuck Murphy.
Fuck what?
Woo!